Hi, and welcome to OurVentura.com. I'm your host for this segment, George ALGER, and today we're going to be speaking with Camille Harris, who is an advocate for fair housing here in Ventura. Welcome, Camille.
Thank you, George. I'm just delighted to be here. I watch your show, and I'm a big fan of OurVentura.
Awesome. So we're going to be speaking about generally the, situation with housing in Ventura, which we talk about as a fair housing type of scenario, but I know that you're particularly interested in talking about grandfathering. So could you define what that means?
Yes, grandfathering is a solution to our situation here in Ventura and a lot of old cities. It's basically making sure the property is safe, having the person pay whatever fees they needed to pay when they made an improvement or did some maintenance that required a permit. And so they're made safe and they pay. And they no longer have to worry about code enforcement coming in and knocking down the value of their property or making them tear down parts of their home or things like that. And this is a situation that's very, very common in old cities, but especially in Ventura. 75% of our homes are over the age of 30 years. Ventura culturally was a blue-collar culture. You had the oil field workers over there. You had the CB, the construction base, retiring here, retired military. And these people were, honeydew guys. I mean, they really took great pride in doing their own maintenance, adding grandma's sewing room, or putting on a dining room if so needed, or building a shed. And this has been going on here for probably 100 years, or at least since codes began. And there was a silent grandfathering in that the codes were never enforced. They were only enforced if there was a complaint where a neighbor was impacted. Well, now all that's changed. And making that bridge from an old culture where do-it-yourself was encouraged and accepted to one where you have a lot of regulation and ordinances is a very difficult bridge to cross without people being seriously damaged in the values of their property, because once there's a code violation on a property, the value can go down 40%. In Ventura, they actually cloud the title of the property. So if you don't have a screen in a window, or you're missing a permit for a water heater, or there's a whole myriad of things, you can end up with your title clouded. Now what this does is it blocks your access to the equity that you have in your property. Now, if you don't have a government pension, this is your piggy bank. Your home is where you go when you have medical expenses. Maybe you're sending your kids to college, whatever. So people realized when the city of Ventura started a door-to-door proactive code enforcement program, writing tickets for people, people were blindsided and they just rose up, just hysterical. And it was during an election period. So the city council almost was forced to seat a committee called the Ventura Safe Housing Collaborative to come up with a grandfathering and amnesty program and code reforms for fair housing and safe housing. That was the primary consideration. So it was called the Ventura Safe Housing Collaborative. They met for 2 years. They analyzed that. These are real sharp professionals. One of them, Ken Looper, was the vice chair. He was a systems engineer, IT guy from the U.S. Navy, who actually received a Department of Defense award for his work on systems, efficient systems for the Department of Defense. I mean, the guy is a real brain. So he went through there and he analyzed everything they needed to do to get a functional system. The complaints, and they had 3 public workshops The biggest complaint was subjective enforcement, preferential treatment, retaliation. There were hundreds of complaints.
Now, these are from property owners.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're complaints against the city.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm clear on this. But I still want to make sure I'm really getting the concept of grandfathering. So the idea of grandfathering is this simply allowing earlier code policies to be pertinent today for older homes? Is that the idea?
Well, the state law says that when you did the improvement on your home, whatever codes were in place at that time, that's what applies.
Okay.
That they don't have to come up. But we've got some serious flaws here in Ventura, whereas if you make an improvement to your house that's a new improvement, say you're adding a room, you would have to bring the whole house up to today's codes. So our system really discourages home improvement. It also discourages safety for the simple reason that people won't apply for permits because they see a permit as hunting license. Because then once code enforcement has gotten on the properties, they're going, say it's to inspect a water heater. So they go, okay, you're all right on that. Then they say, oh, those windows over there, those don't look like the original windows.
Well, even undercutting that, I mean, I'm realizing that you apparently need a permit for very mundane types of improvements.
Yes.
I mean, where would you start? First of all, you wouldn't need a permit to change a light bulb, but to
Almost.
change a okay.
If you're changing a lighting fixture, yes.
Really?
Yes.
An external lighting fixture.
That's right. Or if you're changing a faucet and your bathroom, say you want to upgrade it. And you know, that's the thing. If you watch HGTV and you see the things they're doing on there, you're going, ooh, I could really spiff up my place. The problem is they don't tell you that you need a permit to do those things. So now you run down to Lowe's and you say, oh, I want one of those really nice faucets. And you take it home and you think, you look at the directions and you think, well, I can do that. And so you do it. Boom, you're busted, buddy. If they get in your house and they see that, then you're a violator. So this is very, very, very important to know. You have the Fourth Amendment right to say, no, you're not allowed on my property without a warrant. Most people don't know that, especially the seniors. And there were a lot of claims of intimidation, threats, and they weren't told of their rights to say no. And then once code enforcement got on their property, then your nightmare begins.
Okay.
Especially these older homes, you know. So the seniors are the low-hanging fruit.
All right. So would you say, in your experience, comparing Ventura government, or would you say it's Ventura government or Ventura City Council that's mainly the sort of the institution behind this?
It's the staff. I don't think that the City Council quite understands how devastating these policies are. I really don't think they do. They live in a different world. You know, they're not trying to survive on Social Security. Most of them have government pensions. They're very well heeled. They just live in a different world. But these poor people here, you know, and especially over in the West Side, they're terrified of code enforcement, absolutely terrified. So what we have here is a culture of fear. We have policies that encourage blight because people are afraid to get permits to fix things up. And what happens is our property values decrease as we become more blighted, but as people get tickets on their property, the property value decreases by up to 40%. So that, since realtors, they figure the comps, the value of your place on the comps in the neighborhood, as those property values go down, the net worth of the entire city comes down.
Right.
So if you look at the benefits of grandfathering, number one, safe housing, because you've got to get a safety inspection first. Now, there's money now for the city because people are going to pay for the fees that they should have paid Maybe they didn't know that they had to pay those fees. A lot of people didn't. You didn't know that you had to, get a permit to change a light fixture. Most people don't know those things. So now there's found money for the city that they never would have gotten because these people live under the radar. So now they're out in the sunshine. So the city gets money. There's no more fear. People now will apply for permits because they're not afraid of code enforcement coming onto their property. The property values go up because there's a real unleashed energy to improve properties. But people go, I'm not going to put on a patio cover, or I'm not going to put in new windows because they'll see me, I'll get busted, and then they'll find out about my sewing room that my grandmother put on here. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, since you're an advocate for safe housing and you're familiar with not only what's going on in Ventura, but have some familiarity with areas outside of Ventura, in your experience, is the situation in Ventura better or worse than other communities around here?
I would say this is going on all over the country because as government revenues have shrunk, the city workers and staffs in all the cities are worried about their jobs. And their experience is the more tickets we write, then the safer will be our jobs. But especially in Ventura, where they were told that they had to be revenue neutral, that means self-funding. So it's like, you don't do that with people who have police powers. These people have police powers. So it would be like putting your police on straight commission. You just don't do that.
Right.
So that's a policy they need to look at real hard. But as you look across the country, there's a national organization called F.A.C.E.Off, and it's now in almost every state in the United States. And it's about over-regulating to create revenue, which is what a lot of it is about. It's not about safety. They'll tell you it's about safety, but it's really about money.
Yeah.
And that's the sad truth. So what we really need to do is convince the city staffs that they will do better as partners with community members, and they'll make more money, and their jobs will be seen as safe because we'll need them to facilitate all these programs, and they'll have plenty of money to do it. So that's really the key, is to change the mindsets, because right now the staff has an adversarial kind of view with the community.
Okay.
And a lot of them don't even live in Ventura.
I see.
So that's a lot of it. We need to reset the mindset and the thinking and into a partnership mentality.
That would be ideal. Yeah. Now we're just about out of time, but let me ask you what advice you might give to a homeowner in Ventura to help the situation as briefly as you could.
I think the first thing they need to do is get educated on it. There's a site called Ventura.com, and there's one called Ventura.com. Go to either one of those and look at the videos. Everyone needs to know that they have the right to refuse entry to their property. I believe there's a group now that's working on an initiative which would grandfather Ventura properties so that people wouldn't have to worry anymore. They should get involved in that initiative, because I'll guarantee you right now, George, everyone watching this has a code violation. They don't know they do, but they do. So if they've changed a faucet, if they've changed the light bulb, if they've bought their place. Our city has admitted that it's lost a lot of permits. So but they will still prosecute you for missing a permit.
Wow.
Yeah, so the only way out is grandfathering.
Okay.
So I say go to the website, get involved, join the group that's going to be doing the initiative, and let's get Ventura safe and erase the fear that exists right now in our community.
Thank you. Well said.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
This is Camille Harris. I want to thank Camille one more time, and this is George ALGER signing off for this segment of OurVentura.com. Until we see you again.